If you've got a cabinet door that keeps falling off its hinges, here's how to repair it for good. Are you ready? Let's go. Okay, with this being my door and this being my cabinet carcass, doors are generally made from a timber or MDF, but cabinet carcasses are usually made with a chipboard, which is really easy for screws to rip through. So generally the screws will start ripping through the bracket on this side. If it happens to be this side, you can still follow these steps. You just won't need to do the extra strengthening. It might just be a case of getting some better screws through a little bit thicker. To start repairing the chipboard where it's been ripped out, you want to take off your hinges from this side. So different hinges have different ways to get them off. Quite often it is a little catch system that you can come back here and squeeze. Okay, so I basically just squeezed that towards me and that got rid of this piece. So do that to top and bottom and then just unscrew these plates as well and you'll see where it has ripped out of the chipboard. Now you can grab yourself a scraper or a putty knife and get rid of any flaky pieces, any bits that might just fall off by themselves, just to make it nice and smooth. Now I've got some leftover sawdust. Yeah, sawdust from a previous project. And I'm just gonna make a little paste of sawdust and wood glue. This is gonna be a super strong filler, better than gap filler. Make sure there's no big bits in there. Okay, and I'm going to use a toothpick because we're going to use this to force it into the holes later. Okay, that feels about right, just like sort of like a wet dough. Okay, now we just force this in. Just going to use my finger to smoosh some in, and then we'll use our, what is this thing called? Toothpick. Just shove it in a bit more. We want to really fill up the entire screw hole. Okay, there we go. Let's let that dry overnight. Okay, so let's have a look at, hello. Let's have a look at what screws were originally used to mount this super heavy door. So this is the original ones. Absolutely ridiculous. No wonder it probably fell out in 5 minutes. Somebody has added some new screws, which did seem to last a fairly long time, but you can see they're very long, and actually there is only one thickness here of the chipboard, so it's not two cabinets side by side where it could actually bite into the other cabinet as well and give it lots of strength. So I would say that is why it has been failing for such a long time, and we now need to repair once again, this time for good. Now if you do have two cabinets side by side that you're drilling into a nice thicker plate, then just make sure you get some longer screws like this and make sure they're nice and chunky. And if you don't, if you've got the single wall like me, here's how we are going to make sure the same exact thing doesn't happen again. What I'm replacing with is some high tensile hex bolts and nuts. So these were $1.72. So they come with bolts and the nuts. And I bought separately some washers. And just ignore those other washers, I didn't end up needing those. And just before I explain this bit, here's a word from our sponsor, me. If you love learning how to do things yourself or just watching somebody else do them so that you don't have to, consider subscribing. It is absolutely free. I have 10 years worth of content on my channel that you can binge watch after you watch this one. And if you didn't already know, dropping a like and adding a comment down below helps bring my videos to more people that need my help just like you. Now, because I know my audience really loves diagrams to help them understand everything, here is my little diagram. This is my cross section of the side of the cabinet. Here is the bracket that I need to attach. I'm going to be using these bolts with washers on either side to create a surface area that won't pull through, and then just a nut on the other side to hold everything together. So obviously we'll pop a hole where we need to align the bracket. Then we're going to put our bolt with our washer on it all the way through. Then we're going to pop our washer on the back side, and then finally put the nut on, screw it up a little bit, and then tighten everything down. This is going to make sure that nothing is going to rip through in the future like it may have done before. Let's drill some holes the right size for these. And then luckily I don't actually have to take out the oven. What I can do is reach my hand up underneath here. There's a small gap, and I'm going to be able to hopefully hold the nuts in place and screw into them. Fingers crossed. Look at that fluff. Alrighty, so I am just putting my bracket in place so I know where to pop my first hole. Drilling a little hole there, the right size for my bolt. And then popping my washer onto the bolt, sliding that in. And now let's see if I can get my hand up underneath to attach the washer and the bolt on the back side. I'll lick my finger and stick this to it. So I was able to get the washer on fairly easy, but the nut was a little harder, so here's my trick. So I'm putting a little piece of double-sided tape on the back of this little screwdriver, and I'm going to stick the nut to this so that I can poke this up inside and give it some push against whilst I screw it on. Here is my nut stuck to the end of my screwdriver, so I can pop it up inside there. And then I have a little hex socket on here. I get an inside the back of there. I don't know whether you can see it, but there is the nut and the other washer. Feels nice and sturdy so far. Let's put the other one in. Got the washer on here already. All right, I have my 2 nuts and bolts on with all my washers. Feels really, really sturdy. Let's put the door on and see if it actually is. To put these back on, you want to take a look at these teeth here. And if your hinge is flipped in the wrong direction, just flip it towards the cabinet. Okay, and then there's some little teeth in here, basically, that need to go into these teeth. So opening it out nice and flat, get it so that that clicks into there, and then push with this finger. There we go, we are on. If you saved yourself a few $100s by watching this video and doing something yourself, and you want to support me as a creator, you can now buy me a coffee. This is just a no obligation way for anyone that wants to give a little bit of extra support, that now they can. Just know that I will not be buying myself a coffee with the money. I'll be buying power tools because I've got a coffee machine, so power tools it is. I'll pop the link in the description below. If you enjoyed watching this video, here's a few more that you might also enjoy. And if you haven't already subscribed, it's free, wherever it is.